have another episode and another special guest. She is going to be working with us this weekend. Kathryn, how are you?
I'm doing well.
Awesome. So we're going to jump into that interview as soon as we have these messages.
Pushing the gas and along with the pedal. We not the same, we on different levels. You say the same, but yo, I cannot settle. I'm bringing the bass and you bringing the treble. Pushing the gas and along with the pedal. We not the same, we on different levels. You say the same, but yo, I cannot settle. I'm bringing the bass.
Sin atraso, soy un alatrano, braviarte que Picasso. Sinfonías de mis dientes se convierten en un palo pinto, mis sentimientos, un universo estoy creando. Sé que lo puedes ver, difícil comprender. Es mi forma de ser, realeza y poder. Se retiró R de reggaetón, llegó la
Awesome, guys. Welcome back. Again, this is the EL3VATE Fusic365 podcast, and I have Kathryn here with us.
Hello.
How are you today?
I'm doing well. I'm glad to be here.
Awesome. So let's go ahead and jump into it. You are an instructor here for the convention. Now, what style of dance are you bringing, and what kind of helped you develop what your class is going to look like, or what piece you're going to be teaching?
It's been a journey for me. I'm actually from Augusta.
Okay.
I'll just tell you a little bit about my journey leading to what I teach, because I feel like
it matters.
My whole life has led towards what I'm interested in sharing. And I've always felt that wherever I am in my life is kind of an overflow into my work. And I want what I share to be an overflow of how I live my life, or how I desire to pursue to live my life.
Right.
So I grew up in Augusta and started dancing at the age of 3.
Okay.
And I took at Augusta West Studio, also Augusta Ballet at the time. And I was taking tap, jazz, ballet, contemporary, all the things, the basics. And then whenever I was 18, I ended up moving to Los Angeles. I had auditioned for a role in a film to be a dancer.
Okay.
I got the job.
Yes.
I moved to LA and thought I was going to be working for about 3 months. They cast too many dancers, so I was an extra. I had 1 day of work, and I had moved my whole life to LA. And I was just kind of living there with a choreographer that I knew a little at the time, and I was kind of pursuing this professional dance career, which I didn't really know much about, or what it even was.
Right.
But and we can kind of get into the details of everything that happened.
Yeah, because I honestly want to start off with that.
Like,
okay.
And we'll get to what I'm sharing, because it leads to that.
Yeah, let's start off with that then.
Yeah. So I was 18 years old.
Okay.
And I moved to LA. I had a friend or two, maybe one that went to UCLA, one that went to Loyola Marymount. But I didn't really know anyone.
Yeah.
And so I'm coming from Augusta, Georgia, which isn't the tiniest town, but it's nothing like LA.
Absolutely.
So I moved out. I'm living with this choreographer. I don't have a car. I don't know anyone.
Right.
Really.
And you're in LA.
Yeah. And I'm taking the bus back and forth to the dance studio.
Yeah.
And I'm taking 4 to 5 classes every day.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to get to know people. And I was someone that I'm very sensitive. I used to be very shy.
Yeah.
So it was big for me to step into these studios and stand next to people and just be like, hey, I'm Kathryn. I really like your energy and I want to be near you.
Yes.
Because I needed community.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of my way to build it in the studio. And so much happened. Do you want me to just share kind of job opportunity things that happened? Yeah, so I was auditioning for about 9 months, and there was like here and there little jobs that would come up, some that felt like I wanted to do, others that were kind of would take me far away, and I didn't say yes to. But for the most part, it was about 9 months before I really booked a job.
Right. So this is initially after moving from Augusta.
And doing that 1 day of work that I had. That was for the remake of Fame, a film
Yeah, I know Famous. Yeah.
And so after that, it took me like 9 months, and I was taking class every day. I was trying to build community. I was auditioning. I had just signed with my agency right before I moved out to LA, so it was all new to me. And I was trying to understand what this world is and how to navigate it, which was quite overwhelming, to be honest. And along the journey, I ended up auditioning for So You Think You Can Dance.
Yes.
And I auditioned 3 times. And by the 3rd time, I won't get into it's a long story, but auditioned the first time, I felt very far and disconnected from myself within that audition process. I felt a lot of pressure to like, it's like cameras are in your face and they're saying, what makes you unique? What makes you stand out? And for me, connection has always been my priority. So going into those spaces, I can start to feel really far from myself. And my way of coping is just kind of dissociate and leave my body. And I would always be really hard on myself in auditions, because if I walked away feeling farther from myself, then I would beat myself up. Because I just wanted to walk into a space and feel like I could share with authenticity, whether I got the job or not. So You Think You Can Dance happened, and I auditioned for that. And that was a struggle because I went in and I was feeling so overwhelmed, and I felt really far from myself. And I didn't get the job. I got cut. And I walked away thinking, I don't care if I'm on the show or not. I just wanted to know that I could walk away feeling like I truly showed up in myself. And so that one passed. I ended up auditioning again. I think my mom was visiting a friend in Colorado or somewhere. I don't know where not Colorado. I don't know where we were, but she was visiting a friend, and she was like, you should come join us. And it just so happens that So You Think is auditioning.
We're doing auditions
during that time. And I was like, Mom, no, I already did it. Not doing it again. But I did. I did it again, and I made it a step further, but it was the same thing. I was like, I can't.
Same process that you were trying to get with. I can't
find myself in this. And so that one passed, and then they were doing an off season. So that was season 5 I auditioned for, and it usually happens in June, July, in the summer. And then season 6 they were doing during the fall, Christmas. And so I ended up auditioning one last time just because a friend wanted me to go with them. They didn't want to be alone. And I'm like, sure, I'm not going to make it. I've already auditioned for this twice. I'm not even nervous. Like, I can just go and support you and be a comfort. And
that's probably what it took, though.
It did. And I ended up going in, and it was such a beautiful experience that honestly felt really spiritual for me. Like, on the final audition in front of one of the executive producers, you're standing there in a room, and this is something that no one sees on TV. It's this wooden floor, and it has numbers 1 through 5, 6 through 10. And depending on your style, they line you up on these numbers. And they say it's all contemporary, doing a round. And they play music that you don't know what's going to come on. So it's all improv, and they just say go. And number 1 goes out, and you may be dancing for 3 minutes, 30 seconds. You may walk out, and they immediately say cut. So for me, I remember I was number 2, and I just had a moment where I was just like, I just so deeply want to feel like I'm like connecting, like I'm connected. I'm like dancing with angels. Like, that's kind of what I was thinking about. And then In the Arms of an Angel came on, and it was this spiritual moment for me that just like all the stress, all the pressure fell away. Third time's the charm. And I just stepped out and was like, here I am. The purest part of me.
And they took it.
And they saw me. And then I went on to the show, and that was my first job at 19 years old. The first time I had ever had cameras in my face. And it was really intimidating in a lot of ways, but there was also a lot of beauty in that moment, that reminder of like, it's the authenticity
that they're looking for.
It's standing in me, and they're able to, their humanity is connecting with my humanity.
And that's what you were missing, that connection.
So that was kind of my hope throughout, my wish throughout the entire process of being on that show was, how can I stand in that honest space in myself? And I didn't do it perfectly. I struggled to want to feel like I was good enough. I really had a lot of stress. But it was always that reminder of like, at the end of the day, it's that, the purity of our souls that we're able to resonate with.
Between anything. Oh my God. So what advice would you give somebody that's not necessarily going out for So You Think You Can Dance, but they're going out for, a role or, just an audition for anything, dance-wise? What advice would you give them?
I think there's been too many rooms that I've walked in and abandoned myself in order to prioritize the other people or try to be good enough.
Oh my
You
God.
do not have to abandon yourself for anything.
Yes.
And you can walk in a space and know that you have choice in those spaces, even if something's being asked of you. You have choice what feels comfortable for you or what doesn't. You can say yes, you can say no. And not every job is for you.
Right.
And if you're able to walk in, and even if there's nerves, like stand in the reality of how you are in that moment.
Yeah.
People will take it or leave it. And I truly feel like the things that I haven't been invited to be a part of, even if I wanted them so badly,
not for you at all.
they really weren't for me. And maybe they were for me later. Maybe they weren't for me at all. So I think that's a really big thing for me, and I'm still working on that.
Yeah.
How do I walk into a space and not pretend?
Yeah, or not abandon yourself. I like that word.
While being a performer.
Yeah, yeah.
So how can we walk into spaces, be professional, because we are performers, but be able to listen, to differentiate when you're performing because that's a part of an internal glow and expression, or you're performing because you feel
out there and what they would like or what they would receive. Oh my goodness.
Exactly.
I love that. I really, really do. I really, really do. So with your students, I mean, specifically to this convention, are you kind of pushing that forward and making that the space for your class? You know, is that, you know, what you're trying to get them in the mindset of so that they're able to perform how they need to perform and not what they think that you want to see?
Yeah,
you get what I'm saying? Is that what you're pushing?
Definitely. I think that, and so much even from there to now, I'm 31 now, and that was when I was 19. And so there's been so much that has happened up into that point that's really encouraged the way that I share, the way that I teach. And I think for me lately, choice has been really important in spaces, because I know for me as a dancer, I would walk into these rooms and I would feel as though I just want to please everyone. I just want to do a good job. I just want to be liked. And so there would be a lot of pressure around that, and it would feel as if I was given choreography or I was given things that I felt I had to do it in a certain way to be good enough.
Right.
And it didn't feel like I had choice in that. So I'm not saying that all educators or teachers go into a space and say you have to be a certain way.
Right.
But depending on the individual and how they operate, being a perfectionist, and a lot of dancers relate to that, it can be hard to walk into a space and truly feel like you do have choice to be where you are and to get to know yourself within a shape rather than just trying to do a perfect shape.
Yeah.
So I really do hope to share that. I'm still learning in myself, like how to navigate my sense of coming home to myself, my sense of embodiment, living in my body.
Yeah.
And I've kind of over the past 5-6 years been re-meeting and redefining dance and movement for myself away from this kind of showy film, television performance, which I think that's beautiful. But can we have both? Yeah.
Can they coexist? Do you think they can?
I think they can.
Do you think they are in the current space of, I guess you can say, performers across all platforms? So whether you're on Broadway, whether you're on TikTok, whether you're on Instagram, whether you're, you know, at a dance convention, do you think they do coexist now, or is it space for some type of growth or acknowledgement per one of the other sides?
I think they can. I'm not going to say they do or they don't, because I don't know all the environments.
Right.
But I think it's actually a really personal experience. I shared a class today. It was very kind of improv, exploratory. There were dancers and non-dancers in this space. And afterwards, someone's feedback was like, wow, I felt so safe. Like I felt like I didn't have to be anything. I could just be myself within this space. And I reminded this mover, because we're all movers.
Yes.
I reminded this mover that I didn't do that. And that's an individual's journey. Like they
that's
said,
what you chose.
They said, I felt safe in my body. And I was like, I can't offer you that. Yes, I did offer a safe enough space for you to explore and get to know your body. But you're the one that gave yourself permission to stand in yourself. So I think that it takes, just as we rehearse things in dance our pirouettes, whatever it is, so we can get to know them and they become second nature. So how can we rehearse those moments of spending time with ourselves so we start to establish what safety feels like for us personally? So then when we walk into a space where whoever's holding the space doesn't feel safe to us because maybe that person's nervous. So maybe their stress is bleeding into the room and they feel they have to prove something. So instead of being a complete reflection of that stress, we've already had a felt sense of what safety is, say for us personally, for me personally. So I can walk in a room and I can feel the stress. Yeah. But can I also realize that there's more to me?
Yeah.
There is that felt experience. And that's what I mean by not abandoning ourselves to match another person's energy to be approved of.
Got you. I love it. Oh my God, I love it. So do you think that with this, and I'm going to just keep bringing it back to Fusic365, with this specific convention, the students that you have seen, do you feel like that space has been not just perpetuated, but do you feel that it's been a space that you haven't created before, since, again, everybody here is kind of different and you're from here? So now you're coming back to a space and you're teaching where you have a connection, which you said this is most important to you. So do you think that that's kind of playing a part on the piece that you're teaching or a part of the choreography you're teaching? You know, do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, I get what you're saying. Okay. I can't say it's entirely different because I think that what I bring into a space feels like it is similar in every space. Right. But I do think that every single person that comes into a space, we create this kind of puzzle or these ingredients to something that you don't know how it's going to turn out. Even us together, we're creating maybe a different energy or feeling than your last interview or your next interview because I'm a different person. And so when we come together, it's like a chemical reaction. We don't know what's going to happen. Right. And that's so exciting and beautiful how different that is. So I feel that way. Being on the grounds that I grew up in, being in Augusta, that's a special energy. Being able to, in between classes, step out and see the Savannah River and see where I've walked so many times. And then to come in and know that, like, this is a home space. And having people come in and go, wow, like, you've inspired me so much, or like it's like people saying that, like, you're a part of us. Even I'm meeting them for the first time. And I think it's so beautiful that what I've experienced and the opportunities that I've had and the work that I've put in and my career is something almost like a football team where you feel like, I'm on your team. We did this. We did this. It was kind of that energy as I was meeting different people of like, we're from the same place. Like we're in this together and I'm so proud. So that felt really beautiful to experience. And then coming into that, it was like dancers from the area that honestly I've taught before on other conventions that I teach on. So I had people coming in that kind of know what I'm about. People coming in who've never taken my class before, but we're just in the area, which is so special. I had an assistant who her family's in Aiken, so she was able to drive down and kind of bring that familiarity into my home space. Right. And then I was walking around and I was gathering people to take class. I was gathering some of the musicians or artists that are there that would not necessarily call themselves dancers. Also people running the event. And I was like, come on, do you want to explore? We're all movers. And how do we strip away this idea of dance and talk about how we're naturally moving all the time? Absolutely. Your heart's beating, isn't it? Exactly. So you're dancing. Your head's nodding, your hands are moving, your lungs are expanding and contracting. So really, as I guess cliche as it sounds, like dance is life, movement is life. But it is. But it is. Because if we're not moving, we're not alive. So at our most still state, we're still moving. We're moving. And that is dance. It may not have style. But it's dance. And so structure or technique or our performance is still moving. We're moving. And so how do all of us, dancers, non-dancers, I think so many people can come in and be like, oh, I'm not a dancer. I can't do that. I can't touch my toes. Well, even just saying you can't touch your toes, you did something. What was that? Trying to. What's it like to spend time with these things, that these body parts, wiggling our fingers, like looking around and using our eyes? It's so healing. It is. So I just think what I was able to bring in a space was a reminder that, like, you don't have to be anything.
Yeah.
We're just learning what we already are.
Yeah.
And what we already have.
Yeah.
And together we're doing that. And I
Yeah.
think that was really inspiring to have like ex-military or artists or everybody in a room
come in,
looking around and just going like, wow,
you're right.
we did that.
Yeah.
We did that, and we took that seriously together. And so because of that, there was so much laughter and play, and there were also moments that felt really deep and personal.
Yeah. I love that. That's so good. Like you said, like the energy that you are bringing is completely different. But I'm going to segue into, as far as styles that you've trained in are, you know, that you were getting your career started off in, what do you think helped shape you the most as a professional? Which one had the most impact on you and why?
That's a really good question, because I don't know if there's an answer to one.
Mm-hmm.
I think that I have experienced such a variety of movement in my life, dance and non-dance, that has influenced the way that I approach movement and see movement.
Mm-hmm.
So one, I started out with ballet, and that is a foundation. It's not something that everyone has to have.
Right.
But for my form of contemporary, it can be pretty technical at times.
Mm-hmm.
And so ballet is definitely something that's influenced me greatly.
Yeah.
And it's really just having a respect for
Yeah.
a lot of the foundation of where this art form came from and how contemporary developed.
Mm-hmm.
So ballet definitely. Jazz as well. There's a fire that I learned.
Yes,
There's a
the
fire that I
sassiness,
learned
the funk,
in jazz, and a sharpness and
Mm-hmm.
an ability to really command a space and be dynamic.
It's spicy.
Yes,
Spicy.
which I love, which I would say is more of a strength of the studio that I grew up at.
Yeah.
Tap, learning rhythms,
Yeah.
learning how to listen to
Beats,
rhythms and play
yeah.
with rhythms, and that helped me so much as far as musicality. And then moving into hip hop as well, it helped me to kind of even get lower into the floor and feel like I could connect to this internal groove and rhythm. And then contemporary was kind of the last thing that I connected to. And what I loved about it, being a very sensitive, emotional person, is it gave me a space to tell stories.
Yeah.
So then I was able to connect to all of these different styles and incorporate it into something that's just free movement that can really be anything, that does have a foundation underneath it of technique.
Yeah.
That can really be anything. And so I loved contemporary so much.
Yes.
And then once I moved to Los Angeles, I started to kind of be able to open myself up to all different forms of expression, more improvisation.
Yeah.
Gaga movement is a form of improv that I absolutely love, that has helped me to just experience more of an organic experience within my body that I had never really had before. It was more structured, whereas like growing up, again, I wanted to please, I wanted to do a good job. So give me choreography and I'm going to practice it and I'm going to do it as best as I can. Tell me to just explore my body and I'm terrified.
Yeah, because you've never been asked that before, though.
I've never been given space to go, what do you want? What do you like? What do you want to do? So once I moved out to LA, I was given more of that space, but I was also taking classes that were helping me to train in choice.
Yeah.
To train in getting to know how to move my body in that way. And so that's taken a decade or more to feel more comfortable in. And but that has moved into authentic movement, which is something that I've studied and I still study. And that's really a moving meditation that isn't dance. It's more contemplative dance. It's a more of a bringing the subconscious to the conscious reality and expressing that.
Yeah.
And so that could look really boring to a lot of people, but it's like learning how to say, if I'm sitting in this space, when I'm sitting here with you, I feel the heaviness of my hands and the heaviness of my shoulders. And so if I really listen, my body kind of wants to go here, but I'm also feeling like a pull over to the left side. So this like isn't choreography, but when I'm listening, my body's pulling me places.
To where it wants to go.
And that's a form of expression. And if I do that long enough, it's this meditative experience. And you're also witnessing, which is a very healing experience to have another witness. So I started studying Gaga. I started studying authentic movement. which is a form of meditation, and then studying meditation on its own.
Yeah.
Studying the stress response within
hole.
my body.
Yeah,
and
just jumping into it.
like more somatic experience of the body, like embodiment, because I felt so far outside of my body when I was dancing many times.
Yeah.
Trying to be good enough, trying to
Yeah.
perform. So I've been studying these practices to help me arrive back into myself.
So is this newer? Like, I mean, because you clearly had already had it in you to want to even go that route as far as, you know, teaching, learning, understanding dance.
Yeah.
Is it new? Did it just happen because of because of experiences, or was this something that you always envisioned for yourself as a professional?
I don't think I ever knew. This is awesome that we're going here. I don't think I ever knew to envision this for myself. I think it's been a journey of coming home, and I'm still there, a journey of self-discovery, and I'm still there, maybe for a lifetime, probably. But I don't think I really knew about any of these things. I've always had this desire for connection, and something that I realized was that the more I was dancing, the more opportunities I had in film, in television, company shows, whatever it is, performances, I started to feel my stress levels were getting higher and higher. And I started to feel like I was building a reputation for myself that I was afraid I wasn't going to live up to. A lot of this was just in me. No one was telling me this, but it was my stories that I had for myself. And I was starting to have these kind of habitual patterns of stress that I would
anxiety, nervousness,
Yeah.
giddy,
And the opportunities that I was working for and being given, I had a lot to work through in order to feel like I could truly show up in them. And I wasn't enjoying myself as much. And so I think I needed this experience of being a performer and doing all these different styles and to have a moment of, whoa, this is too much. And then once I realized it was too much, I started studying the stress response, because it was like, I need to understand what's happening because I feel like something's wrong with me. And as I started studying our nervous system, the way the brain communicates to the body communicates to the brain, I realized that the stress response is beautiful. It's what keeps us alive. The stress response is what keeps us from running out into traffic. It tells us to be afraid of that. It tells us to be afraid of a hot stove. And that's a really beautiful thing. I had just gotten stuck in this response of feeling like everything in my life was dangerous. So that sense of safety,
right? Okay.
the sense of safety that we were talking about earlier is something I hadn't established in myself. And I was looking externally to match the energy of the environment. And in the professional dance world, that can be a lot.
Absolutely.
So it's something that over time, in exploring the styles that I had been working in and training in my whole life, I hit a point where it was like, whoa, I care so deeply about connection, but I feel the least connected to myself than I ever have. So if I'm learning how to do a pull-up or a push-up in dance, I have to understand how to start, where to place my body, how to end. I have to understand the technique and the structure. So then I started getting interested in about the technique of our stress response so that I can start to work with it. And that doesn't mean it's ever going to fully go away, but I'm learning tools to manage it. And I'm finding that I'm arriving into myself deeper. It's not that I'm never abandoning myself, but I'm learning that there's an option, and I'm learning to do it less. And I'm also looking around the room with all of these spaces that I'm given the opportunity to share, and I'm seeing reflections of myself. And I'm seeing a bunch of students
that is super deep.
That need the same thing. And it's something that I was never taught.
But now you as an instructor embody that, and now you're sitting there. So I almost want to see 5-10 years from now down the line, you know, all the students that you've touched or even been in the same room with, and they kind of take that and like really embody it. Because honestly, as a dancer, if you do learn to keep yourself in those situations, you know, not become disconnected to yourself, because that can often happen even outside of dance.
Everywhere.
I think you become so much stronger, like mentally. Like it turns you into a different type of, I guess you can say, person or human, or the way you process emotion or the way you process movement anyways, you know, you'll find everything to be beautiful, or everything to have some type of gravitation towards. I can't put it into words, but do you feel what I'm getting at? So it's almost like I haven't seen that type of instruction from choreographers. You know, it's always, this is what the choreo should look like. This is what we're doing today. This is what's going on. And it's nothing wrong with it. I just think this is a more, I don't want to say holistic way, almost of dance and performance. Yeah. So how do you take that from the classroom to the stage? Yeah. What does that look like?
That's a good question.
How do you take that? Because now you have multiple.
This is something, every time when you're talking, I just kept seeing the word availability. Yeah. It creates availability. Yeah. That's a good question. It's something that I'm still working with. Okay. And it's still like, I'm in process. And as I'm developing things to share as I'm learning them for myself. And that's been a really beautiful thing. Yeah. And also a challenging thing of like, wow, I'm redefining so many things in my life, and I'm sharing as I do it. So learning how to share while being in process, like a gray space of redefining things, but still learning how to be like, okay, I'm not fully connecting to what I used to connect to, and I'm still trying to embody what I'm working on over here. So how do I share that? And it's naturally overflowing in time. But I think the more that that's practiced, I think it becomes more second nature. The more that I was with an assistant, Mallory, this morning, and this morning we were just doing this little segment. It's like the news was there, and we're doing this segment. It was 45 seconds. It wasn't a big thing. But I think it's interesting to notice how we were just kind of improvising. We were doing this body scan where it was like she starts at it was her hands, and then I was doing my feet. So we were doing the opposite. Right. She would move her hands, I would move my feet. She would move her elbows, I'd move my knees. Yeah. She would go up and move her pelvis and like rib cage. So we were just doing the opposite scan.
Of whatever one,
And we were doing it not on the stage in front of the camera. And then the moment we went on stage, I saw this look in her eye. I hope she's okay with me sharing this. I'm sure she is. I saw this look in her eyes that was like, it was like, okay, we're on. And she was like, and then I immediately I put my hands on my heart and I closed my eyes, because we co-regulate. So an energy that I have within my system, so you can feel it too. If you're stressed and you're holding an interview, I can start to feel the stress. If you're relaxed and holding an interview, I start to relax and too. So we mirror each other. Yeah. And so we went on the stage and we're filming, and I put my hands on my heart. I closed my eyes. I just took a deep breath. And she immediately put her hands on her head, and she just closed her eyes and took a deep breath. And so it was that reminder of, hey, you just became aware that your system was on overload. And your system was on overload, and you were about to feel as if you needed to be something for other people. And this expression wasn't going to be for you. It was going to be for them. Right. Not saying anything's wrong for being for them, but can you be for you and let that exude out to be for them? Right, exactly. Not just be for them and not have any connection to self. Exactly. So I think that for me, what I'm noticing, and there may be many different ways to kind of approach this. I'm not going to say answer, but approach pathways of how you could process what you're asking. I think for me, it's learning to track my system. So if I'm walking into a space, it's like, okay, even before an interview, it's like, I'm not really nervous, but I still don't know what you're going to ask me. So there's a little bit of that, like, so I'm literally sitting here. And when I felt that, it was like, okay, we're about to start. I felt my chair. I sat back and I felt my chair, and I felt held by the chair. Yeah. And then I just looked at you. I noticed how friendly you are, your smile. It's like, okay. I was like, I have water beside me. I feel safe in this space. Let's do this. Yeah. So for me, it's tracking. When am I starting to feel stressed? When am I starting to feel shut down? Okay. And then going, how do I support my system in that?
While it's happening.
Yes. So if I'm going on stage and there's a performance, obviously, if I'm doing some sort of like high energy hip hop or high energy jazz, I'm not going to be able to like, you know, but even going on beforehand, it's like you're walking on stage. Can you feel every foot as it's arriving? You've arrived.
Now you're here.
Arrived, and now you're here, and the music's about to start, but you're here. Yeah. Rather than, here we go, and I hope I don't mess up, and blah, 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 blah. Yeah. Yeah. So I think that's what it feels like. Blah, 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 blah. So I think it's learning tools. So when you feel you're about to lose your lid and leave your body, going, wait a minute. Even if it's just like, hey,
Yeah.
I'm
You're
with
here.
you.
Yeah. I got
I'm right
you.
here.
Yeah. I got you.
Yeah.
I got you.
And starting that way pursues more regulation in the system, and that changes the approach. It changes how you move and dance.
Yeah.
It may be a moment of like remembering your body and then going, the whole time I felt like I left my body, I wasn't present, but you still practice, you still pursued it. And I think in time it starts to become
A
more
part
natural.
of you. Yeah.
Also, when dancing, can you notice the color orange?
Yeah.
If it's something that you've rehearsed a lot, you have it in your body. So there's things like, as dancers, I can be dancing on stage and be thinking like, oh, that person's looking at me funny as I'm smiling or performing. Right. So there are ways to be like, oh, this time I get really nervous doing this dance. So this time I'm going to notice all the shapes I can see in the room. There's a number 6. That's a curved shape.
Yep.
As I'm doing the movement, I see the hoops of your earrings. That's a curved shape. The glass kind of has rectangles here. So then it starts to bring awareness, which is
to everything.
Pursuing presence.
Right.
And when we're pursuing presence, it softens that survival state.
Yeah.
So it's learning tools that you can use while you're actually dancing.
Yeah.
You can look people in the eyes.
The tracking method, though, I think that's something. So I was in a dance organization in high school, and we had these I guess you can say the 8 raindrops is what we call them. Cool, intense, energy, anxious, smooth, excited, nervous, pride. So all of these were the emotions just leading up to, you know, a performance. And, you know, you got the cool, you like, you all right. And then you got the anxious, like, oh, my God. You got the nervous, like, wait a minute, do I actually want to do this? You know, like, so just walking through it. And then the end is always going to be pride. So I think it's just crazy how what you're saying is something that I already internally know, but I don't think I ever knew it in this way. You know what I'm saying? I think that's super, super dope, honestly.
Thank you. I do too.
Yes. So to close it out, give me your top 3 performances. It doesn't have to be a specific genre. It doesn't have to be a specific
For myself,
era.
like,
it could be yourself. It could be anything. Just your top 3. And then, of course, how they influenced what you do, you know, the style of dance that you particularly do, you know, in performance.
Yeah. This is actually a really challenging question for me,
It's
believe it
super
or
hard.
not, because yes, I do enjoy watching other performances. I get so much out of that. But I think that my greatest inspiration is more so in being able to witness the process of other people. So I think the things that influence me the most is like being able, what I feel I like to do is people watch. I create safe enough spaces for people to feel they can connect to themselves, and then I back up and I people watch. And so I think what inspires me the most is that people watching.
Yeah.
It's being in environments and seeing how people communicate or don't communicate with one another.
Yeah. Or how they react or don't react.
It's being in spaces with arguments, being in spaces where people are seem really connected. Watching children.
Yeah.
Watching how they play together.
Yeah.
Watching when they get overwhelmed and how they manage that and how they're taught to manage that. Watching animals and how they interact in nature with each other. So I'm changing the question, but I can't necessarily say that there's these performances that have just really impacted how I see the world. Yes, there have been some, but I think the thing that I'm the most inspired by is the process of nature, people, animals, watching a tree blow in the wind, like really learning from the things that have even come before us.
Are happening around you, though.
And contemplating them. I can literally look at a glass of water, and if I spend enough time with it, I can realize something about myself.
Yeah.
I can see myself in it. I can see, even looking in this glass, I see that without the glass, the water wouldn't have a shape.
Yeah.
So it's like, which spaces in my life am I allowing to contain me or shape me or mold me?
Yeah.
Which spaces in my life am I creating a container for other people to be molded or shaped? So that was just an example.
Yeah.
But like, it's the things in my environment that I think deeply inspire a contemplation that leads me to what it is that I want to share.
It sounds like it's endless, to be honest.
It's endless.
Because it could be anything.
It could be anything.
That shapes that, which is pretty dope. Because again, you could be in a space that you aren't too much familiar with, and you're able to pick something out to kind of get back inside yourself, you know, just to push it back out to your students. Like you said, you're still learning, so it's a great area for you too.
Yeah.
That is so dope. That is so dope. Well, listen, Kathryn, we're so thankful to have you with us today. Guys, make sure you go ahead and check her out. Listen, you have another class today, or are you done for today?
I'm done for today. I'm all done. Yeah.
All done? Awesome.
All done.
Well, listen, thanks for tuning in to the EL3VATE Fusic365 podcast. I'm Stina Diaz.